Although this place has been around nearly a century, I think this is perhaps one of Bengaluru's best kept secrets. We are in the year 2022. Atar ansate that I've stepped back somewhere in the 1900s, early 1900s.
I will say I came here 50 years back. That is why that becomes a problem for us. I myself don't remember what is the taste 50 years back.
I am 73 years old.
73 years old. So you're coming here for how many years?
This is the fourth generation hotel.
The moment that hingu goes into that sambar masala, its aroma rises and it also carries with it the aromas of all the ingredients that have gone into it. That aroma, parimala of that sambar. Well, I'm told this is a pot of gold that patrons like Mr. Balasubramaniam have been visiting here for the last 50 years. The dosa is crisped to a caramel brown sort of a color. Namaskara folks, this is Kripa Alamana, Gourmet on the Road, and you're watching Food Lovers TV. We are here on Balepete main road and we are here to visit what is perhaps one of Bengaluru's oldest eateries. We are here to have a meal at Udupi Sri Krishna Bhavan, an eatery that goes back to 1926. And I'm told the foundation of Udupi Sri Krishna Bhavan goes back even earlier to the turn of the last century. So let's go in and taste some of the culinary traditions that this eatery has upheld for nearly a century. Namaskara.
Namaskara.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good. How are you? Nice to see you and thanks for coming all the way.
It's wonderful to be here. When you step in here, it's like you step back in time. We are in the year 2022. Atar ansate that I've stepped back somewhere in the 1900s, early 1900s.
More or less the same ambience in the last 80 years.
In the last 80 years. So I'm with Mr. Subramanya Hulla, who perhaps represents the fourth generation?
And the third.
The third generation of the family behind Udupi Sri Krishna Bhavan. You know, I always ask this to people who are stewarding businesses that have been around for decades. Preserving must be very difficult, no?
It is very difficult because people come with expectation. To satisfy their palate, they will say, I came here 50 years back. To satisfy that becomes a problem for us. I myself don't remember what is the taste 50 years back.
Do you have cooks who go back 50 years?
In fact, in the last decade or so, we have most of them retired, but we have trained the next generation. And hopefully we'll be able to sustain.
I think many a times we take age-old legacy establishments like these for granted. I believe in all my experience of having seen so many eateries, I think it's always easier to do something new than hold on to traditions that have emerged, that have passed on through generations. Do you also feel the same?
Oh yeah, a lot of people belong here. They say that, in fact at a given time I was telling, I don't know whether I'll be running it. No, please don't do that. That is the reaction.
I am 73 years old.
73 years old. So you're coming here for how many years?
This is the fourth generation hotel.
What is your favorite dish here? Favorite in Nimdu Illi? Mr. Gopala Krishnan says, I asked him, I said, Nimge Illi, ellatkinta jasti enu ishta. He says, if I have 4 children, how can I select between the 4? Fantastic. Very nice to meet you, sir. Thank you.
Nice to see you in this busy area. See, many will hesitate to come to chickpet and balepet.
New kuda generations inda barta idire. Nimdu tande, nimdu grandparents. I think that's the wonderful thing about places like these. Not only are they manned by generations, they're customers through transcend generations.
Yes.
Preserved this place as is, down to the furniture, down to the chairs as well. Huh?
Yeah, this was made about 50-60 years back.
The legacy of this place goes back to the turn of last century.
Effectively 1902.
Okay.
My grandfather's uncle, Mr. Rama Hulla, he started this place.
Okay.
In a Balepete circle called Udupi Hotel.
Udupi Hotel.
It was called Udupi Hotel and Coffee Club.
Ah.
So later on, my grandfather bought this place and he had no male issues. So he said, "You're doing another one, why do you want it?" So he left it off to somebody.
All right.
Otherwise, we could have claimed 1902. In this place, we have been from 1926, we have been here. That is my father's brother-in-law.
Okay.
He was the one who really built up this hotel.
What's his name, sir?
Somayaji.
Mr. Somayaji.
Somayaji, yeah. And in the 60s, my father and uncle took over this place.
Ah.
And then we started Janardhan Hotel. Then my father and uncle split and I got this. So I am still continuing with this. My cousin is there.
Oh, okay. So Janardhan Hotel is also part of the same
Was part
family.
of the family, yeah.
And I think that's the other interesting thing. I think all these places, whether it is Udupi Sri Krishna Bhavan or Mawarli Tiffin Room or some of the other eateries, they all go back to South Canara, Kota.
It's a small village in South Canara called Kota, where it consists of 14 villages.
Okay.
And all these Maya, Holla, Karant, all these people come from there.
What is it about this cluster of 14 villages and the people who emerged from there last century?
I think the difficulties they face there.
And what made them so successful in the food space?
The fire in the belly.
The fire in the belly and perhaps also a palate.
See, this place, I told you, Udupi Hotel was started mainly because a lot of people from South Canara had come into Bangalore. So my grandfather's uncle decided we'll start something for them. So bachelors who are there, they need something to eat. So they started that place.
Oh, okay.
That was the trend which was started. So all the people from South Canara were good at cooking. They made use of that skill and most of them have come up very well.
Speaking of the cooking, can we take a look at the kitchen and see what's happening in there?
Yeah. So this is also the same old kitchen. This tawa is about
Dosa hanchu.
Yeah, electric. Bangalore, ours and MTR were one of the first hotels which got power, which is an all-electric hotel.
So this is perhaps the only remaining electric tawa in Bengaluru.
Yeah, I think so. But this is one of the oldest. I've seen it all through my life. I'm 57 years old today. Since the day I know this has been there. Yeah, this is our famous dosa.
Okay.
Our Sagu Dosae is the most famous one.
Sagu Dosae.
Yeah, the traditional crowd which comes on Sunday morning, they love this thing.
The Sagu Dosae.
Yeah, and the masala dosa.
What makes your Sagu Dosae special?
This is a special gravy. Very few hotels make it.
Okay.
And the way we prepare this is different. The masala is different. The vegetable cooked, everything is different. So the taste is different. For dosa, we were one of the first to introduce this in Bangalore. That's Sagu Dosa.
And your dosa is cooked in what? Roasted in oil, ghee?
It's about 60% of ghee is there.
And 40% oil.
Because you pure ghee, you'll die of eating it. And we are one of the few hotels where the dosa is cooked on both sides.
On both sides. Erad sides are roast ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ?
Third side roast ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ.
So ಇದು ದೋಸೆ ಬಂದೇಲಿ ಏನು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ?
Two kinds of rice, dal.
ಕೆಂಪಕ್ಕಿ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರಾ?
Kempakki.
ಹಾಕಲ್ಲ.
We use something called as sajja.
Sajja.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a millet.
It's like a millet.
Yeah, and traditionally we have been using it.
And
it gives a little bit of softness to the dosa.
Dosa. And then two varieties of rice. Boiled rice.
Boiled rice and we call it kusublakki.
ಕುಸುಬ್ಲಕ್ಕಿ
Yeah.
and ದೋಸೆ ಅಕ್ಕಿ.
Dosa akki.
And ಅವಲಕ್ಕಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ?
Avlakki hakala. Two mente is separately mixed.
Separately mixed.
It is separate.
You also add a little bit sugar into that?
Very little.
Very
For-
little sugar.
For that container we'll be putting about 1 spoon of sugar.
1 spoon of sugar just to give that little
Little bit
caramelization.
of caramelization.
That is your onion dosa.
Onion dosa, yeah. Onion uttappa, yeah.
That is also
Only in the
famous.
afternoon. Afternoons we don't have idlis, we have rava idli.
Oh, afternoons rave idli.
Rava idli.
ರವೆ ಇಡ್ಲಿಗೆ ಫರ್ಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲ?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ we put curd.
ಕರ್ಡ್ ಯೋಗರ್ಟ್ ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಾ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ?
Yogurt ಹಾಕಿ. This is where we make our puris and vada everything.
Well, that's the puri that goes into the lunch plates out here. But we are not here for the lunch. We are here for the tiffin. Vade ಇದೆಯಾ?
Vade ಇದೆ.
ಸೊ ಏನೇನಿದೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ? ಉದ್ದು?
ಉದ್ದು, ಮೆಣಸು, ಜೀರಿಗೆ, ಮೆಣಸುಗಳು.
Ekdam fine ಇದೆ.
There is a method of grinding this.
Okay.
If you don't follow that, it becomes watery. The moment it becomes watery, we have to add rice flakes into it.
ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅಕ್ಕಿ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಅಕ್ಕಿ ಹಾಕದೆ
ಅದು ಗರಿಗೆ?
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. If you make
ಬರೀ ಉದ್ದು ಇದು.
ಬರೀ ಉದ್ದು.
ಸೊ ನೀವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ?
40 years.
40 ವರ್ಷ. ಸೊ ನೀವೇನು ವಡೆ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿಸ್ಟಾ?
He's done everything.
ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್. ನೇಮ್ ಏನು ನಿಮ್ಮದು? ವೈಕುಂಠ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಊರು? ಉಡುಪಿಯಿಂದ?
Earlier complete staff used to be
ಫ್ರಮ್ ಉಡುಪಿ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್ ಸರ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
These are the ingredients for sambar masala.
ಸೊ ಈ ಸಾಂಬಾರಿಗೆ ರೆಡಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
Ready ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. They have put ghee there.
So there's fenugreek seeds. I can see some cumin, rice, ಉದ್ದಿನ ಬೇಳೆ. ಅದು ಯಾಕೆ?
Udin bede for the masala.
For the masala, to give it some thickening.
Thickening, yeah.
ಇದೇನು ಸರ್?
Dhania powder.
ಧನಿಯಾ ಪೌಡರ್. ಸೊ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಇಡ್ತೀರಾ ಇದು?
It becomes easier to grind.
Okay, so blade ಹಿಡಿಯುತ್ತೆ.
Yeah.
And then of course the other ingredients. So you've got the cinnamon, some pepper.
Mustard seed.
ಅದೇನು?
The
Gasgase, poppy seeds.
And this is the tamarind, jaggery.
I think a jaggery is a very important part of our South Canara sambar. ಅಲ್ಲ?
Oh yeah. Without that, nothing happens for us.
Jaggery ಬೇಕೇ ಬೇಕು.
Extensively used.
And then of course you got two chilies, ಬ್ಯಾಡಗಿ and
badgi. This gives
Guntur.
this gives the spice and that gives the color.
color.
And of course coconut and curry leaves and tomato, and this is just for flavor.
Fantastic. What's your name? ನಿಮ್ದು ಹೆಸರು? ನೀವು ಕುಕ್ಕ ಇಲ್ಲಿ?
15 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ.
And this has to go in like this because that takes a longer time to cook. So that's why.
ರೆಡ್ ಕಲರ್ ಬರಬೇಕು.
ರೆಡ್ ಕಲರ್ ಈ ಥರ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟು ಕಡಲೆಬೇಳೆ.
ಕಡಲೆಬೇಳೆ. ಉದ್ದಿನ ಬೇಳೆ.
All this has to turn red. Until then they can't put anything else.
Oh, so they have to roast this now.
Yeah.
So this is the basis for the sambar. I'm told the sambar here is very popular.
We are very popular for the sambar. I sell in liters here. People
Really?
come, they'll take 10 idlis and give me extra sambar, they'll ask.
ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ರೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆಯಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? I can smell the aroma of the fenugreek, right?
Yeah,
that is what you can
that's-
smell right away.
ಚಕ್ಕೆ.
ಚಕ್ಕೆ. Now you can smell some of the aromas of the cinnamon.
ಸ್ಮೆಲ್ ಬರಬೇಕು.
ಬರಬೇಕು. ಸ್ಮೆಲ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್.
ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್. ರೈಸ್ ಅಕ್ಕಿ.
ಅಕ್ಕಿ.
ಸಾಸಿವೆ.
ಗಸಗಸೆ. ಜೀರಿಗೆ.
ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ಮೆಣಸಿನ್ಕಾಯಿ. ಗುಂಟೂರು. ಕರಿಬೇವು. ಲಾಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಧನಿಯಾ ಪೌಡರ್.
ಧನಿಯಾ ಪೌಡರ್. Oh, some asafoetida.
And the hing we get it from northern India.
From northern India.
It's about 13,000 rupees. 13,000 rupees a kilo.
13,000. The moment that hingu goes into that sambar masala, its aroma rises and it also carries with it the aromas of all the ingredients that have gone into it. I think that hingu seals the deal.
Yeah, that is like a sealer. Yeah.
That's like a sealer. Fantastic.
This is the dal and the sweet pumpkin. It's all cooked and ready for the sambar.
ಸೊ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ದಾಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಮಸೂರ್ ದಾಲ್ ಇದೆ,
Masur dal ಇದೆ.
ಕುಂಬಳಕಾಯಿ,
See kumbla.
ಸಿಹಿ ಕುಂಬಳಕಾಯಿ, ದ ಸ್ವೀಟ್ ಪಂಪ್ಕಿನ್.
Sweet pumpkin, yeah.
ಮಸಾಲೆ ಗ್ರೈಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ
Masala grind ಮಾಡಿ
ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ.
it goes into that.
ಓಕೆ.
Then the sambar, it has to boil should boil for 10 minutes. All the dal, everything will absorb the masala.
ಬೆಲ್ಲ ಯಾವಾಗ ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಾ?
ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಬೆಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ.
Last ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಲ್ಲ.
Tamarind, everything will go.
So those are basically the ingredients just to balance flavors.
Balance flavors.
Puli, see.
And it has to go one after the other. You can't put everything together.
ಇದು onions ಯಾವಾಗ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ onions ಇದೆ?
Last ಅಲ್ಲಿ onion ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ.
Onion last ನಲ್ಲಿ.
Last ಅಲ್ಲಿ on topping ಹಾಕ್ತೀವಿ. We also serve Jain Sambar, which is without onions.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of Jain customers who come for us, they ask for that. Every day we have one small quantity of Jain Sambar kept separate.
Oh,
for them.
okay. So anyways, I think time to taste that sambar now. I can see plenty of the curry leaf there, some onions on top. That aroma, parimala
Parimal.
of that sambar.
You should be telling me how it is.
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸ್ವೀಟ್ ಇದೆ,
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ
slight ಹುಳಿ ಇದೆ.
ಹುಳಿ ಇದೆ.
What I like about this sambar is that I'm tasting the particles. You can taste the coarseness of the sambar.
And we don't make it 100% soft.
Fine ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ.
Madala. Because you should get those things in your...
Because if you make it fine, I think that sambar will just wash away in your mouth.
Yeah.
But here, because the sambar comprises of coarser particles, each of those particles holds on to your tongue, conveying the impression, conveying all the flavors of that masala that it carries. South Canara sambar ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸ್ವೀಟ್ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹುಳಿ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಖಾರ.
Without that, there is no fun.
ಸೊ ತುದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವೀಟ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕತ್ತೆ, ಹುಳಿ ಸಿಕ್ಕತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಖಾರ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಕ್ಕತ್ತೆ. You get the on the throat. Fantastic. And this certainly seems like the sort of sambar that you will enjoy with your idli, and in my case today, the vade. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸಾಂಬಾರ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೀಟ್ ಇನ್ನೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪ್ರೊನೌನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಸ್ಪೈಸ್.
Because of the pepper, everything, you can feel it going in.
So the combination of the pepper with the Guntur chili and of course the byadgi for the color. Delicious. I think I can believe Mr. Holla now when he says customers come here, they ask for 10 idlis and they ask for a liter of the sambar. Having tasted this, I can certainly vouch for that. I just love the old world charm of this place. Although this place has been around for the last nearly a century, and the legacy of the family goes back to 1902. I think this is perhaps one of Bengaluru's best kept secrets. Most of the customers that I see here, we are here on a Thursday, are perhaps those who work around here, have visited the market and therefore they know about this place. I think this is a place that many in Bengaluru still have to discover. Namaskara.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
ಏನು ಹೆಸರು ನಿಮ್ಮದು?
ಗಿರೀಶ್.
ಗಿರೀಶ್. ಏನು ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಏನಿದೆ?
ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಸಾಗು ದೋಸೆ ಇದೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ವಡೆ ಸಾಂಬಾರ್ ಇದೆ, ಖಾರ ಬಾತ್ ಇದೆ.
ಯಾಕೆ ಜನರು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾರೆ ಸಾಗು ದೋಸೆ?
ಹಳೆ ಕಾಲದಿಂದ ಫೇಮಸ್ಸು.
ಹಳೆ ಕಾಲದಿಂದ. ನೀವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಾಲದಿಂದ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ?
ನಾವು 10 ಇಯರ್ಸ್.
ಊರಲ್ಲಿ?
ಕುಂದಾಪುರ.
ಓ, ಕುಂದಾಪುರ. ಫ್ಯಾಂಟಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್. ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ನೈಸ್ ಟು ಮೀಟ್ ಸಂಬಡಿ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಸೌತ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ರಾ. ಸರಿ, ಸೊ ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿ, ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಿಂಗಿಗೆ ವಡೆ ಸಾಂಬಾರ್ ಮತ್ತು ರವೆ ಇಡ್ಲಿ ಕೊಡಿ. Well, I tasted some of that sambar in the kitchen, and that is certainly the sort of sambar that made a terrific impression on my palate. It's a sambar that is quite punchy in its flavors and grainy, almost the sort that you can bite into, if you know what I mean. Let's go for some of that vade now. That vade has soaked in that sambar rather well. As Mr. Vaikunta scooped it out of the bubbling oil, I'm sure it must have been hot and crispy. But since then, that vade has eased into that sambar and is now rather soft and yielding, and also seems to have imbued that sambar rather greedily. Enough poetry, let's get to the eating. That vade is hot. Hallu beda. Kachake. ವಡೆ ಬಿಸಿ ಇದೆ, ಸಾಂಬಾರ್ ಕೂಡ ಬಿಸಿ ಇದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಸಾಂಬಾರ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೀಟ್ ಕೂಡ ಇದೆ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಟು ದ ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದ ಗುಂಟೂರು ಮೆಣಸಿನಕಾಯಿ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಶೋರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ದ ಸಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾಂಬಾರ್ ದಟ್ಸ್ ಗೋನ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಮೀ ಸ್ವೆಟ್ ಅಟ್ ದ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೈ ಹೆಡ್. ಸೊ ಟೈಮ್ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ರಿಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಹ್ಯಾಟ್ and focus entirely on my vade. I don't know if the camera can see that, but even as I slice open this vade, there's a bit of steam that's escaping from within the soft porous inside of that vade. And what I'm told here is that it's only the uddu. In a lot of places, to get that gari gari, to get that crunch, they also add a little bit of the akki hittu. But out here there's none of that, it's only that uddu, and therefore that vade is quite soft, it's quite yielding. That sambar is also rather thick. You can also of course taste the flavor of the curry leaf, some of that jeeri, that coriander that they grind coarse before it gets roasted in that masala along with the other ingredients. I've been so engrossed in the sambar that I've almost forgotten the chutney, the papa chutney that's sitting there waiting for me to get a taste of it. Plenty of khai that I can taste in that. A bit of that pointed heat of the green chili, and I suspect there's also some mint that goes in to flavor that chutney. I can taste a bit of that freshness along with the pointed heat of plenty of green chili. Salpa haki, thank you. Just when I looked up searching for Girish to find my sambar, I met another gentleman who was ready with that katori. I think that's probably a regular drill here. They come here, wait for people to consume their vade, their idli, and the moment they're halfway done with the vade or the idli, they know they've run out of the sambar. So they're waiting in the wings with that katori of sambar to replenish whatever remains of your vade. In this case, I'm almost embarrassed to mention that I've got not even a quarter of a vade, but I've managed to cajole him to fill my katori twice over with the sambar. I can also now taste a bit of the softness, a bit of the mashed softness of the sweet pumpkin in that. And I suspect the sweet pumpkin is also what adds to the slightly sweet character of that sambar. Although it's served with a vade or a idli, this is easily the sort of sambar that I think would also happily embrace some anna. Have some of this sambar with a bit of the anna, that's all that you need. That vade has submitted fully to the character of the sambar. Its sweet notes, slightly sour, and the warmth that I can taste of the pepper and the Guntur mensinkai that is now slowly working its way from my throat into my tummy. But if you're looking for that punchy, pointed khara, that heat that comes from the green chili, well, you'll find plenty of that cocooned within the coconut and putani in that chutney. Well, I was told that the star here is the vade and also the dosa, but I said to ease my sense of guilt, I will also taste something that is a little more nourishing, steamed, and also perhaps healthier, like this rava idli. The rava idli, as you know, is basically the semolina along with a bunch of other ingredients that have gone in with the mosuru, with the yogurt. That's a rava idli that's rather wholesome. I can taste a bit of the saswe in that. I'm crunching into bits of the coconut. I suspect this also sat in this plate for perhaps a few minutes more, and therefore there's a thin film of dry rava idli on the top. But on the inside, the idli is rather soft, rather moist. Let's now taste that idli with some of that sagu. Plenty of onions, plenty of the vegetables that have gone into it. I think there's some sort of gourd, there's the carrots. That's a sagu that's rather gentle, rather mild. From the mild sagu, let's now dunk that rava idli in that chutney. So in the vade, I could definitely taste the spicy kick of the chutney a lot more. But out here, the rava idli has enough body, aided also by the yogurt, to withstand the spicy onslaught of the chili. So you're tasting the spice in the chutney, but that chutney is rather mellow. I think this is also the sort of dish that lends itself rather well to being savoured with one's hand. I think what you want to do is break down that rava completely into the minutest of particles and savour it with that sagu. Use a bottle gourd in that.
Bottle gourd also.
Carrots. Chayote squash.
All these 4-5 vegetables.
Doing my engineering college.
Used to come here.
I'm now
72 years.
Now 50 years I'm coming.
50 years. So Mr. Balasubramaniam, ಇಲ್ಲಿ half century ಹೊಡೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತೆ. half century of tasting the Sagu Dosae. He comes all the way from Baipannahalli just here so that he can taste his Sagu Dosae. Sagu Dosae. Fantastic. Chanage roast agide. Well, I'm told this is a pot of gold that patrons like Mr. Balasubramaniam have been visiting here for the last 50 years. This is a dosa that is quite crisp and I suspect has enough strength to stand on its own. The dosa is crisped to a caramel brown sort of a color and conceals within itself that sagu that we tasted earlier. It's sagu with the sime badnekai, the chayote squash, the bottle gourd, the kol rabi, the carrot, and there's of course also the kempu chutney. I think if I were to pay attention to it, I could perhaps even hear it crackle. That's the sort of roasted texture that this dosa has achieved. You can see all that tuppa ende combination oozing out along with that sagu. Also the tuppa is served to moisten that gatti sagu. So unlike the sagu that I tasted with the rava idli, which was a little liquidy, out here the sagu is a little held together, it's a little gatti. I guess they want the flavors to be a little more pronounced. Enough talking, let's get to some batting. What I'm tasting predominantly is the crunch of that dosa. This is a dosa that has substance. Even as you bite into it, there's an element of gritty crunch, if you know what I mean. This is a dosa that certainly has a bit of weight. There's also a slight tingle of tartness that I'm tasting in that dosa. I want to taste that dosa just by itself. This is a dosa that almost crunches like a crisp wafer. In Bengaluru, there are many iconic dosa joints, many that go back decades. But I think every place has its own style of dosa, whether it's in the batter or the manner in which they roast the dosa. I think that plays a very important role. And of course, I think most importantly, also the energy of the place. Out here, that electric dosa tawe that we saw has been roasting dosas for the last 70 years. It's perhaps the only old electric dosa hanchu that exists in the city of Bengaluru. And I'm sure that hanchu too lends its own character to that roast of the dosa. Truth be told, I prefer the palya in my dosa. But out here, they said it's all about the sagu dosa, and that's the reason why I'm tasting it. And having tasted a few bites, you certainly begin to appreciate why people perhaps enjoy the sagu dosa here. So unlike palya, which can get quite monotonous in its flavors after a while, with the sagu that's not the case, because you got 4 or 5 different vegetables that go into it. So each vegetable has its own nuance in terms of the texture. There's also plenty of other ingredients that go into it that lend that sagu a little bit of heft along with the onion. So I think it also serves to make the flavors of that stuffing a little more complex as opposed to a palya which can sometimes get a little monotonous. But having said that, I would certainly want to taste the masala dosa here too on my next visit. The chutney on the inside is rather mellow, it's rather mild. And of course the sagu is quite mellow in its flavors. So if you want a little bit heat, I suspect that's where that chutney comes in handy. The chutney certainly perks things up with its chili heat and also some of the freshness that perhaps comes from some mint. That dosa almost crunches like a crisp wafer, especially along the edges. So this isn't a masala dosa that will burden you with rivers of tuppa or generous dollops of bende. There is a tuppa of course, but the tuppa goes in a combination with the oil just as the dosa is roasting. And as for the bende, well, there's none whatsoever. So therefore this is a dosa that sits rather lightly on your stomach and also on your burden of guilt. And I suspect that's also the reason why I see patrons here who are well into their 70s, perhaps even older than that, enjoying their dosa, enjoying that Sagu Dosae guilt-free. That crackle, I don't know if you can hear it above the din of the eatery that has now gotten busy, but that crackle is quite special. And also, as I come to the end of my dosa journey here, that dosa has acquired two distinctly different personalities. The center of the dosa, weighed down by the moist sagu, has now become rather soft, that yields rather quickly to your bite. And along the edges, as that dosa has cooled down, it has certainly gotten crisper. Quite visible in that loud crackle of a crunch that you taste in every bite of the dosa's edge. It's almost like you're tasting two dosas for the price of one. And as I've heard from some of the other patrons here, the flavors they taste even today holds true to their memories from half a century ago. Well, we've tried 3 savory tiffin items here, so I thought we should also close with a tasting of 3 mithai. So we've got, of course, a gulab jamun here. That wasn't on my plan earlier, but I met somebody who said they come here for the gulab jamun, the badam halwa, and also this dumrot. The dumrot is available only in the morning, but thankfully for us, there was a bit of it that was saved even for the afternoon. We should make a beginning with a dumrot because I suspect that the dumrot may perhaps be the least decadent of the mithai that I have here. And of course, the principal component of the dumrot is the bood kumlakai or the ash gold. What's important in a dumrot is the rot, and the rot basically refers to the crust that you see here. So as that mash of the shredded bood kumlakai along with the khoa, a little bit of chiroti, rava and some sugar is roasted in that oven, it also acquires a bit of the char. And therefore, this rot, and because it's cooked in an oven on dum, therefore the name dumrot. Enough talking, let's get to the eating. So they basically shred and boil the pumpkin. That's the foundation of that dumrot. There's also a bit of edible color that goes in to give it this orange hue. I can taste a slight bit of huli that perhaps is a character of the bood kumlakai, and I also suspect some raisins that have gone into it, and that slightly bitter charred edge of the rot, and then the aroma of the pacha karpura, the edible camphor that just wafts and fills your mouth. Now the pacha karpura is an ingredient that some people may perhaps need to get accustomed to, but thankfully out here it makes its presence felt, albeit with a slightly subtler aroma. What I find here is your dumrot is rather, it's not too rich.
No, it is not. It's not very rich because it's made out of a little bit of khoa.
Yeah.
And this one, and it is mixed with some rava.
Correct, that gives you that bite.
Yeah, and then you bake it.
Correct. So what I find, and I think that is very similar to the dishes that I taste here, you're not trying to weigh down your food, your dishes with a lot of fat, with a lot of sugar, with a lot of dairy.
Very healthy food. I've seen people who eat every day. And I'm an example. I eat my food here every day. Nothing is overly rich.
Which is, I think, the theme of your eatery. I've tasted many dumrots earlier, and I've tasted dumrots that are rich with the dairy, with the khoa, which is a reduced milk solid, with the tuppa, with the sugar. But this is a dumrot that feels almost healthy. Out here at Udupi Sri Krishna Bhavan, they don't want to burden you with an excess of tuppa, excess of benne, sakre or what have you. What they want to do is serve you the good old fashioned flavors of yesteryear, the sort of flavors that they have been serving since the turn of the last century. From the dumrot, I think time to move to that badam halwa. Flecks of the almond, I can also see strands of the saffron, and I'm sure even with a spoon into that gatti character of the badam halwa, I know I'm going to be tasting both the flavors of the almond and of course with a bit of the tuppa and the khoa. And then the delicate whiff of saffron that engulfs your mouth. In the dumrot, it was a pacha karpura, which went very well with the robust, earthy character of the dumrot. But out here in this delicate badam halwa, it's more the light aromas of the saffron that wafts through your palate. There's also a bit of a bite owing to the crushed almonds that you can definitely taste. And last but not the least, the jamun. This isn't a jamun that's very soft. I think between the three desserts, my favorites were the dumrot, which was not as decadent as the dumrots that I've tasted earlier. And I think that's a good thing because you don't really having it weighing down on your guilt. And that badam halwa with that delicate whiff of the saffron. Well, after the excesses of the dessert, some coffee just to close things here. Good coffee. The sort that also does well to wash away some of the sugars and the dairy richness that I've tasted both in the Kumlakai dumrot and the badam halwa.
ನಮ್ಮ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಫಾದರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಬರೋರು.
Ella Barovaru.
He'll be here 3 times a day.
Really?
Morning for breakfast.
I've of course enjoyed that vade sambar, especially that sambar that I can perhaps eat katoris of. That Sagu Dosae too was rather special. And in the desserts, I enjoyed both the dumrot as well as the badam halwa. But beyond the food that they serve, I think this place is a delicious hark back to the glorious yesteryear. Unlike some more popular eateries that too are doing a terrific job, I feel Udupi Sri Krishna Bhavan, by virtue of being tucked away on Balepete main road in Chickpet, has perhaps not received the sort of attention that it deserves. So if you want to savor some delicious flavors of yesteryear in an environment that transports you back to the turn of the last century, I would definitely recommend a visit to Udupi Sri Krishna Bhavan. If you're coming by car, well, you'll have to plan your parking. The best way to get here is either on your two-wheeler or an auto, or perhaps ride the metro to the 2 stations that are just a short walk away. I think places like these are committed to honest work, are committed to practicing traditions that have been laid down 3 or 4 generations ago and are serving us a very important window into the wholesome goodness of yesteryear. I can't imagine how poorer our life would be had it not been for institutions like Udupi Sri Krishna Bhavan. I hope you enjoyed this delicious throwback sort of an episode. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, stay strong, and happy eating and drinking. If you'd like to support the work that we do at Food Lovers TV, do consider joining our membership community on YouTube by hitting the join button below or on the home page. You could pledge a nominal sum and receive special privileges like behind the scenes footage, shoot updates, access to live Q&As and a lot more. You could support us on our Patreon page as well. For more info, check out the links in the description below. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, share and leave a comment below. Happy eating!